stepping, we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard and I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Big stepping, we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard, man, I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Business is business, yeah. I grind for the check. Line up with me, you gon' see how different when I step up on the opponent's necks. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how I'm earning all of my respect. Line up with me, you gon' see how different how I run the game, but don't stretch. My hitters stay with me. Give them nothing, we putting up 60. We got power, you better call 50. Better chill like I reached like Wimby. It's not rocket science, shit you gotta know. We put them down like some dominoes. Wake up early, put the time in. Now I'm watching a Culotta show. Trying to send help when I come around, dog, it ain't working. Trying to just play and trying to stop me, dog, it ain't working. I handle business while your lanes chirping. Who on my level, man, I'm still searching. I'm in their heads like a neurosurgeon. I'm everywhere like I'm Harold Perkins. Let's see stepping, we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard and I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Big stepping, we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't lose. For my family, man, I can't lose. I grind hard, man, I can't lose. I'm stacking days, man, I can't lose. Grind a week, now let's get the money. I'm in that mode, yeah, you know I'm coming. Automatic, I'm a bet on me and my team.
All right, everybody, here we are. LSU Postgame Show. It looks a little bit different. Lloyd bailed on me. Haven't heard from Christian. So here behind the keys, working the board. I've got Justin in here with me. Let me cut the camera to Justin so y'all can see him. Y'all can hear from him. Justin, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hello, hello.
All right, well, here we are talking LSU versus UCLA. Wasn't the prettiest game. Wasn't the ugliest. But there's definitely things to improve. There's definitely a lot to talk about. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Talk to us in the chat. We won't have any phone lines today, but we will. We will start to answer y'all in the chat as we go on throughout the show. But here to talk about today's matchup. It definitely wasn't the prettiest. I'll start there right now. I mapped it out here on my laptop a little bit. Drive by drive. That first drive, LSU obviously started the game. Well, before I get to the drive by drive breakdown, we'll start here with the just some things that stood out. I'm going to start off with the good. One thing that stood out to me is definitely Braden Swinson. He is absolutely he's a monster. He continues to make plays. He continues to get after the quarterback. I don't know what his stat line was today officially. Let's see. So Braden Swinson had 5 total tackles, 3 were solos, 2 sacks, one of them being a forced fumble. I mean, he was after the quarterback all day, and the broadcast, Jesse Palmer and Tessitore, they couldn't stop talking about him as the game went on. Braden Swinson is an absolute game breaker, and it's good to see because LSU needs it. The front 7 to me again stood out. They had another good game. At some point, the back end of this defense is going to have to step up and have to make plays because you can't continuously on third downs expect Braden Swinson and Ahmad Bro and Gio Paez and Savion Jones and Perkins and Witt and Greg Penn to continually make plays. They can't make plays every third down. At some point, as a corner, as a safety, if you're Ashton Stamps, if you're Deshaun Spears, Jordan Gilbert, P.J. Wood, like these type of guys, like you're going to have to make the play. Major Burnt, like you're going to have to make a play at some point. I do think there are more good things to take away from this. I think offensively, Garrett Nussmeier looked excellent. Another outstanding performance from him. In his stat line, he was 32 of 44 with, I think 300 and – let's see. He had 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a 73% completion percentage. That's a quarterback that you can win games with, obviously, because your LSU is 3-1 on the season. They have a very good quarterback. At the wide receiver spot, obviously, some more good things. Mason Taylor is probably one of the best football players I've ever watched in my life. He continually makes plays. He's just really good at the sport of football. And I think you've kind of seen when it comes to who's reliable and who Nussmeier has the trust in to make the play when it's needed. You've seen Taylor. Obviously, we expected that. But Aaron Anderson's a guy to me that on third down, on one of those plays that you have to get something, you have to make a play, he goes back and forth to Aaron Anderson. And Aaron Anderson makes the play. So, like, that's another win because outside of Kyron Lacy, who didn't have, the biggest game today, he had 3 catches for 23 yards, and with that first catch of the game being the biggest one. And I think you saw he got plenty of targets. Nuss and Lacy still haven't been able to connect on that kind of fade route in the back of the end zone, which at some point you want to see that work because that's something they obviously want to work because they can continuously go back to it. But you did see a pretty bad drop from Lacy in the first half on a third down that you really wanted to get. But Brian Thomas, Nussmeier's a cool game manager, but check down. See, I disagree. I don't think Nussmeier's anything like a game manager. Like, yes, in that second half, he did get, check downs to the running backs, making the plays. You saw Durham take one, a little short pass to the house. But Nussmeier's in no way a game manager. I mean, in that first half, I think in drive number, let's see.
They were trying to chuck the ball down.
Right. Like, he was making throw. Like, there was a point where he was definitely feeling himself a little bit with his arm. I think on that third drive was when he threw the ball, which was a beautiful throw to Kyle Parker. I mean, you genuinely cannot throw that football any better. Like, you just can't. And so Nussmeier's in no way a game manager because were they taking away the long ball wasn't there the rest of the game really outside of that play. He missed a couple throws. They had some PIs on some of them. But Nussmeier has played excellent throughout the season. And I think the play calling today, there were still some times where it was questionable. I wasn't the biggest fan of some of the play calls. There was a time where they shifted into pistol formation on a running play. But it was when they were facing a front where you probably should have just dropped back and thrown the football. But there was one point, let's see which drive it was. The 6th drive in the game, the first drive of the second half, Sloan had a great play action call where Nussmeier dropped it off to Mason Taylor. And I think me and probably everyone watching, everyone on UCLA's team and sideline thought that ball was getting handed off. And so that was a good showing of them playing off the run a little bit because there are times they do get run happy. But another thing that's good is that first drive of the second half, it was, I think, 14 plays, 96 yards, and it ate up 6.5 minutes of clock. And that is coming off of a big stop on defense. The game is tied 17-17. You get a stop to start the second half, and then you drive down the field 96 yards, and you eat up 6 minutes of time. That's the LSU team that we expected going into the season. You saw a level of physicality in that first drive of the second half offensively, especially in your offensive line, that you have not seen yet this season. And so those were the things that stood out to me that were good. Braden Swinson and that front seven can win, can keep you in games to win them. Yeah. The physicality that LSU offense played with to start the second half and throughout the second half. You saw running backs get used in a way they haven't been used yet. Like, that all increased there in the second half. That second half LSU football team played complementary football, and if they're able to put that together for 4 quarters instead of just a second half, they're going to be in they're going to win majority of the rest of the football games, but they're going to be in that Ole Miss game, that Alabama game, the Oklahoma game, the Texas A&M. Like, they're going to be in those ball games if they can put 4 quarters of football together the way they play these second halves. Justin, what stood out to you with some of the good things that you saw? You were in Tiger Stadium. What was some of the good that you saw today?
The good that I saw, first, what stands out to me the most is Braden Swinson.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing. Braden Swinson has been a beast the past 2 weeks, going into the South Carolina game where I believe he had 3 sacks. And then he had 2 sacks today, and he is super impressive. He is, right now, I think he is the standout best player on your defense. I really do.
I agree.
And, that stood out to me. Again, Nuss, for, all the questions coming into the season, moving on from Jaden, Nuss has performed great. He's been great this season. He had some dangerous throws in the South Carolina game, but in this game he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I thought he was great. I really don't have a critique of Nuss this game.
Yeah.
I like that. I know he had one catch for 45 yards, but Kyle Parker, I like seeing that. I like seeing that you have options.
Yeah.
Like at receiver, you have Kyron Lacey, C.J. Daniels, Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker, Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
You have those guys, and they can all contribute. And once, hopefully, we get Chris Hilton back, he can contribute too. So, yeah, I thought the offense played great. I thought I was driving back here when I saw that Caden Durham screen pass go for the touchdown. And I thought the running game was all right today. I didn't think it was bad. But that's what I want to see. Like, I just want to see that from Joe Sloan. Get your guys out in space.
Yeah.
Like, please, just get your guys out in space. Throw a screen pass. Throw a check down. Get some blockers ahead of them. Let Caden Durham go to work in the open field. Let Aaron Anderson go to work in the open field. Because that's gonna be, there are some games where you're not gonna be able to run the football well. I still think we have stuff to work on in the running game, even though I didn't think it was necessarily bad. But get your guys out in space, man. That can be a form of the running game.
100%.
And a very effective one.
Yeah, I agree. I think you saw today probably the best game Caleb Jackson's had yet, and I think the reason that he kind of got some momentum and rolling was because he was used in the pass game. You saw him get, I think, 2 passes in a row where Nussmeier went through all his reads, dumped it off to Jackson, and when he's in space, he was able to get a little bit of momentum rolling physically, like not just mental, momentum, but like physically get momentum. Because, I mean, he is like 240, like a monster of a man. And if he's able to get that momentum rolling, that's when good things happen for him. Like, that's been the struggle for him so far this season is he's getting stopped behind the line. He's not able to break the tackle because he doesn't have, really maybe the quickest feet to make that one cut or whatever.
He doesn't have great vision.
Right, and so when he was able to get the ball in space, and so then you saw that roll over into the run game. He had, rushing-wise, he had 6 carries for 26 yards. That's not anything to write home about, but that's 4.3 yards per carry, which means if you hand the ball off to him 3 times, he's going to get you a first down. So there's definitely that was a good sign. To get to the bad, I think really the bad and the ugly kind of all merged together. But I'll just say the bad is one thing that I did not like that I saw today was taking the ball, receiving the opening kickoff. Because, it was actually really exciting last week against South Carolina to see them defer and not receive the kickoff because – Brian Kelly's mindset, I think, going into it and the way he talked about it was, we're going to start fast, we're going to receive the football, we're going to put our offense on the field, and we're going to go make something happen. Well, you did that. You had an outstanding opening drive, and it didn't really roll over into anything else. Like, you had that great opening drive, but then your defense came out on the field and gave up a 75-yard touchdown drive to an offense that has not played well yet this season. This was their best offensive game. And it was against us. It was against LSU. Like, it wasn't against, a team that's inferior. It's against the number 16 team in the country. And so, like, that's where the concern comes from. But I think you put yourself as LSU in such a bad position receiving because at the end of the game, UCLA is able to put a touchdown drive together at the end of the first half and – then they get the ball. So you're putting your defense in a tough spot. Yeah. Luckily, they were able to adjust, and they were able to get off the field, get the offense the ball back, and score a touchdown. And LSU was able to go from there. They didn't allow a touchdown or a field goal any points in the skunked them in the second half. Nothing. But you're putting your defense in a tough spot. Luckily, this was UCLA and not Ole Miss. But against Ole Miss, you absolutely cannot receive the opening kickoff.
You got to defer.
You have to defer, and you have to get the ball to start the second half because that's the only way you can go 2 for 1. You're not going 2 for 1. You are not given 2 for 1 any other way other than if you catch that second half kickoff. And so it was very encouraging to see the defense make those adjustments in the second half and shut UCLA out, and that them receiving that second half kickoff and being able to go 2 for 1 didn't bite you in the butt. But at some point it will if you continue to put your defense in that spot. And so you absolutely, like, this year, 2024, LSU football team has to defer the opening kickoff because it doesn't matter what your start looks like offensively. It's not going to roll over to the defense. We saw that today. I think that mentally this LSU defense was not fully bought into this football game. I think that's the same thing me and Lloyd and Justin talked about after Nichols, was that they came out flat because I'm assuming they underestimated their opponent. This is a Big Ten football program. Are they good? Not really. It's not Ohio State. It's not Michigan. It's not USC. It's not, Penn State. It's not a top-tier Big Ten team. It's closer to the bottom, but it's still a Power 4 conference football team. There's absolutely no reason to come out flat. And so LSU's got to fix that going into next week. You can't come out flat again defensively and give up, these drives. Because whenever they strapped their helmets on, they buckled them. In the second half, they were able to get stops, make plays. And now in the first half, they made enough plays. They still only held them to 17 points. But offensively, LSU only scored 17 points. Yeah. So, you finally got complimentary football in the second half, which is encouraging. To get to the ugly, it all comes back to the defense, really.
Secondary.
The back end at some point is going to have to help out this front seven. Because are they good? Yes. They're not good enough to win you football games. They're not going to win games on their own, this front seven. Braden Swinson and Gio, these guys, they're not going to win you football games on their own. They're good, yes, but they're not that good. And that's not a knock against them. You have to be extremely good as a front seven to win football games for your football team. So at some point, when Braden Swinson doesn't get to the quarterback, or Gio Paez isn't able to, he rushes past and the quarterback steps up, that's when Ashton Stamps and P.J. Woodland, Sage Ryan, J.K. Johnson, Zy Alexander left today with a concussion. Hopefully he's okay and he'll be able to get back on the football field. That's when they have to step up and make a play. They have to get a deflection. They have to get an interception. They have to do something to help out this front seven, because Braden Swinson isn't always going to get a sack or a forced fumble. That's not always going to – Harold Perkins isn't always going to make the tackle. Now, would it be nice if he got a little more consistent at making the tackle? Yes. But at some point, when the pressure doesn't get to the quarterback – the defensive backfield has to make a play. And I think in that first half, especially the first quarter, that first drive, LSU sent blitz after blitz after blitz. And honestly, that helped Eric Bieniemy and this quarterback get in a rhythm, because they called these quick hitters. They called, these screen plays, and they were able to kind of weather the storm. And now as the game went on, the defense adjusted, and they weren't sending blitzes every play. But at some point, yes, I agree. Chris Sanders, the DBs are not bad, right? He's playing a lot of freshmen. That's not true. He's not playing a lot of freshmen. Sage Ryan is I think a fifth year, if not, maybe he's just a senior. I think Major Burns is a fifth year. Jordan Gilbert is a junior. Yes, Deshaun Spears is a freshman, but that's really the only freshman that's getting extended time. P.J. Woodland got some run. Zy Alexander is an upperclassman. Ashton Stamps is a true sophomore. Yes, they're young, some of them here and there, but it's not like they're just putting out guys that are just brand new to the sport of football. Even if they were freshmen, these are top-tier recruits. At some point, they have to make a play.
Yeah.
You cannot continuously rely on the front seven to get stops, because against Ole Miss, against Alabama, Texas, really against the rest of your schedule, because South Alabama is a pretty good football team from what we've seen. They scored 87 points against Northwestern State, and they beat Appalachian State in a track meet on Thursday,
48-14.
And so, at some point, as a defensive backfield, you have to make the play. You didn't really see any too many big plays given up because of coverage busts. Like I think there was a touchdown that got called back where the receiver was wide open, and that's one thing that you got to get fixed. I think that first touchdown, Major Burns, it was a coverage bust that he should have been there to make that play. But at some point on these third downs, you can't only rely on Savion Jones and Braden Swinson, Whit Weeks, Greg Penn, Harold Perkins, Gio Paez, and the list goes on of these front seven guys to make the play. At some point on third down, your defensive backfield is going to have to get you off the field. And now against UCLA, they're doing enough to help you win for you to win the football game, 100%. But you can't have a first half like that against Ole Miss, against Alabama, against Oklahoma. So is it all, burn it down? Should the fans have been booing the team as they went into the locker room at halftime? No. That's not the state of where this program is, and I was honestly shocked to see a tweet that there were boos at this coaching staff and these players as they went in the locker room, because that's not the state where this program is. Are they living up to expectations? No. But Brian Kelly took over this program with less than 40 scholarship players 3 years ago. This is year 3. And yes, he created the pressure on year 3.
Yeah.
But
that's the opposite argument.
Right. Like
year 3 BK.
Are they as good as we thought? No, they're not. Is the defense improved? Yes. And it blows my mind to see people look at this defense and think that it's the same one as last year, because it's not. It's nowhere near the same defense as last year. It's 100% improved. Now, is it still ugly? Yeah. They're still not a very good defense, but it's better than last year. It is. The offense isn't as good as last year, and I don't know why it would be expected to be as good as last year, because you lost Jay Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, but this is still a very good offense. Apollo, $11 million. I get that Brian Kelly has a big contract. He's getting paid a lot of money, but it's still year 3. You're 2 years in. You got 2 10-win seasons. You have a Heisman-winning quarterback. You have, yes, you figured year 3 would be a lot better, but the biggest failure that I'll put on BK is he completely whiffed on his defensive staff hires coming to LSU. That's what happened. So he, yes, has set the year 3 idea back a little bit. But that's the biggest knock, is that he whiffed on those hires. Now he's got the assistants.
He's got the guys there.
This knock against Blake Baker that he's the highest paid assistant in the league, in the country, and this defense should be top 10 after what they looked like last. No. It's the same players. You can only get so much better with the same guys. So you saw in the second half a defense that buckled in, made the plays, and shut them out. That's the defense you expected for 4 quarters. You just didn't get it for 4 quarters. And so this team is moving they're not moving backwards, Like Jaden Daniels was able to cover up a lot of blemishes because he's generational. And so if they can continue to move in the right direction and continue to make plays and continue to do what they have to do, they can win football games. But the defense that we saw in the first half, that's not going to win you a lot of football games, because you can't get off the field on third down. Your defense is able to get, forced fumbles. They had one that got overturned. Apollo says 9-3, because Dylan says might get 7 wins. I do not think that this LSU football team is only good enough to win 7. To win what? They're 3-1 right now. To win 4 more games. There's more winnable games on this schedule than just 4. I'm going to pull up the LSU football schedule right now.
Let's see. South Alabama.
I know you've got South Alabama next week, and then you've got Ole Miss, and then Arkansas, who SEC opponent. You got to wake up. You got to play them. LSU's a better football team. Texas A&M, they look pretty good. We'll see. Have they played yet today? I don't know.
They play tonight.
They play tonight, so we'll see what they look like then. LSU should win that football game. Alabama and Ole Miss are the 2 that, and I think Oklahoma, you'll find out about them tonight as well. But you have Vanderbilt, Florida, Texas A&M, Arkansas, South Alabama. That's 5 games that LSU should win. And so that gets you to 8 wins. If you lose Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And so Air Force Jedi says, as a LSU fan, we are absolutely horrible and very likely won't win a single game rest of the season. The fact that you guys struggled at times against us is a really bad sign for y'all. I agree. I don't think UCLA is a good football team at all.
The rest of the season?
I think UCLA scored 17 points. Like, this idea that it was a boat race, it baffles me because they scored 17 points. Like, yeah, in the first half, that's still 17 points. Do you know what this LSU defense was giving up last year? It was consistent 40-point games for these other teams.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes, UCLA looked better today than they have been all season, and I think some of that is on the LSU defense. I agree, yes. But Chris Sanders says 10 games. I think 10 games is very likely. I think that's the ceiling. I don't think you beat both. I don't think you win all three, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Ole Miss. I don't think you win all three of those football games. But they are all three at home, and so I think that helps you. Because I think the fan base that you saw today, all these pictures of an empty stadium, I think that one is they were all pictures of the side of the stadium that's in the sun, like that was cooking. Justin, you were out there today. It was pretty hot, huh?
Oh, my gosh. I was in an oven.
Yeah, I mean
I was in an oven for 3 hours. It was terrible.
It was hot out. And so, like, they kind of shifted. People also didn't show up because it's UCLA. This idea, I saw Glenn Gilbo put it out on Twitter, which I don't know why I'm giving him any run, that they had this name brand, big program UCLA. And yeah, UCLA is a name brand, a big program, but
they're terrible.
They're not that good of a football team. And it's a 2:30 kick. Like, I think, obviously, depending on when those games get scheduled, for
I think if that
Alabama,
was a
Ole
night
Miss,
game,
it would be
more
different.
people show up.
I agree, because it wouldn't have been an oven for 3 hours. And so, obviously, this wasn't the LSU game that I wanted to see. I am disappointed in what I watched today, especially in that first half. I'm not going to pretend like it's all rant, but I'm also not completely off this football team. Are they as good as I thought? No. I had higher expectations, but they're not as bad as a lot of people think they are. There are some things that can get fixed that can make them a pretty good football team if they're able to fix some of this play calling, run the ball better. With what you saw today, I mean, on that first drive, you saw a pretty solid run from Josh Williams to get them up to the goal line. And then you saw them use Xavion Thomas out of the backfield, essentially. It was a pop pass to get into the end zone. And then you saw the running backs get involved in the pass game and use some of that momentum to ride into the run game. And so there's some little things that they can continue to fix to stack days and get better. Mm-hmm. But I am still disappointed in the game I saw today because, in my opinion, and I know some people think that a win's a win. Yes, a win is a win. They're 3-1 on the season. They're a couple plays away from being 4-0 and probably being a top 10 team in the country. Because you saw USC was number 11. They lost today to Michigan. And so I'm disappointed because coming off that South Carolina game where you were able to come back from 17-0 down against a good South Carolina team and you were able to get that win, to me, and some people don't agree with this, I saw South Carolina as a must-win, UCLA as a must-impress. Like, you're probably going to win the football game in UCLA, but you needed to make it an impressive win, and that's not what happened today. It was not an impressive win. Mm-hmm. Raheem Jones says, half glass full, 12-team playoff team will improve by end of the season. We just need to beat 2 out of 3 of the games against OU, Ole Miss, and Baylor. I completely agree. I think that is the ceiling of this team. They can get to 10 wins if they win 2 out of 3 of those games. If you're able to, and the good thing is you play, like I said, you play all 3 of those at home. Evo Anik says, fact we are a second-half team proves we can adjust and do better. Now can we play better from the get-go? This team will improve. I completely agree. This team makes the adjustments. They were able to adjust going into the second half and play a complete complementary football game in the second half of that football game. They were able to get stops on defense and turn that into good scoring drives offensively. Let's see. I'm going to look at the drives here, the scoring drives for LSU. So they had that first touchdown was 2 minutes, 6 plays, 2 minutes, 41 seconds. The touchdown drive to start the second half. So these second half touchdown drives, there were 2 back-to-back scoring drives that were 90-plus yards, and you were able to get it off of forcing a punt. So in the third quarter, the first drive of the second half, you had the ball for 6 minutes and 33 seconds, 14 plays to go down the field, 96 yards, punch him in the mouth, and score a touchdown. Then you go back on, and that was after getting a stop defensively to start the second half. And the drive after that, you're able to get a stop again, force a punt, and then you go down the field. It's a 5-minute, 15-second drive, 11 plays, 92 yards. Those are back-to-back drives that really took the wind out of the sails of UCLA. That's complimentary football. That's what we expected going into USC, was if your defense gives you a 3-and-out or forces a punt or holds, the opponent to 3 points, you're able to put a drive together, punch them in the mouth, go behind that offensive line, and milk the clock out a little bit and help your defense. So that was a win in the second half. LSU played complimentary football. Now you have to see that against South Alabama all 4 quarters, because you got that game. You have a bye week, and you've got top 5 Ole Miss coming into Tiger Stadium for what's assumed to be a night game, with a lot of eyes on your. And so you can change the narrative, but you have to continue to put that together. So I'm still disappointed, because that first half, it should not have been what it was. LSU should not have gave up 17 points, because UCLA was not good enough to score 17 points on LSU. That's just the way it works. But on that first touchdown drive, Eric Bieniemy put his offense in a very good position. He made the right play calls. He went off of what the defense was giving him. And LSU was just like one of the Whit Weeks blitzed right up the middle, and they were able to get a dump off. Whit Weeks was a half of a second late. If he gets there a half a second earlier, if he's a little bit faster, he wipes the quarterback off the field, and it's a sack, probably a fumble. On the touchdown before the end of the first half, Major Burns ran straight through the quarterback, but he was able to get the ball off, and they scored a touchdown. And so the first drive of the game, it was not, it was an 8-play, 4-minute, 75-yard touchdown drive. And then you held them to a field goal, and then you forced a punt, and then you forced a fumble, and then you gave up a touchdown right before the end of the first half. That was an 11-play, 75-yard drive. Which also on that drive, Brian Kelly declined to take the 10-second runoff, which obviously hindsight's 2020. I'm just asking you guys as the viewers to fill me in. Do y'all know the reasoning on why take the run? I'm assuming because of the field position idea.
I guess he still had a timeout.
I guess he thought he could get the ball back, and he wanted as much time on the clock as possible. But to me, in hindsight, it's 2020. With the defense you have on the field, you have to assume that you are not getting the ball back. So let's take the 10 seconds off the clock and shorten the game a little bit for them, because instead they have a play with, I think it was 8 seconds they had to score, and they scored with 2 seconds left. Well, 8 seconds is less than 10 seconds. So if you let the clock run out for those 10 seconds, that's hindsight. But whatever. They shouldn't have scored 17 points. So that's why I'm disappointed, because I think you could have easily won this game in a much more impressive, dominating fashion than you did. I think the second half is what that whole game should have looked like. Yeah, could you have given up points here and there? Yeah. But the second half LSU team that you saw, is what I would have liked to see for all 4 quarters, not just the third and the fourth, where you get stops, you put together drives to score touchdowns, where your defense is off the field, and then you get that is the team I expected to see for all 4 quarters. And I think they have the ability to fix that. Justin, is there anything else that you saw that you want to add?
I agree with pretty much, everything you said. it's just the most concerning thing to me. The offense started off well with that great opening drive, sure. But we have not had a great first half ever since the USC game. Nichols kept it close in the first half. You were down at 17-0 at a point in the second quarter against South Carolina. You were tied. You were tied after the end of the first half with a bad UCLA team. And that's super disappointing. And the thing is, just a few things. I agree that I don't think this team is a terrible team. I don't think this team is not going to win another game. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But I'm disappointed. I told you I was disappointed. Because here's the thing. You come off with momentum after the South Carolina game, after fighting back, after proving that you have what it takes to fight back. And then I expected us to go in here with that momentum, with that added confidence, and make a statement. I expected us to go in here and dominate for 4 quarters. And we did not do that at all. You could say we did it in the second half, but sure. But what about the first half? What about we struggled. There was a lot of stuff that went on that in that first half that you did not want to see. I don't like the fact, personally, that Nichols, the game Nichols played before LSU, they didn't score a touchdown till 2 minutes to go in the game. And then they scored 21 points, I believe 14 in the first half. I don't like that. UCLA last week put up 13 points in the whole game against Indiana. They put up 17 in the first half on the road against LSU. I don't like that. That tells me that I don't know what it is, but this team you have to go in here and you have to be like, hey, let's make a statement. We're better than these guys. Let's go out and make a statement. Let's go out and do something. Let's not walk in and take this team lightly and get a win, sure. But, I mean, I wouldn't say LSU fans feel like, oh, I feel so much better after this game.
No, not at all. I mean,
not at all.
And I to piggyback, not to interrupt you, but to piggyback off what you're saying, when it comes to LSU's opponents, yes, they have their best games against LSU, like kind of like what you're saying with Nichols and UCLA. One, because of some defensive struggles by LSU. But on top of that, these teams are coming to Tiger Stadium motivated. Like, they want to make a statement. They want to, I think they want to be there and they want to make a statement and prove something and create momentum for themselves. So they're going to come into Tiger Stadium and punch LSU in the mouth. And so you've seen through 4 weeks, all 4 weeks, very, very motivated football teams across the line of scrimmage from LSU. Mm-hmm. Where USC, both teams were very motivated. That was a season opener. Both teams were motivated. You're a couple plays away from winning that football game. That one, the motivation was there. Nichols, absolutely zero motivation in that first half, and Nichols came and punched you in the mouth. Nichols State. I'm a Louisiana guy. I was in Thibodeau last week. Nichols shouldn't punch LSU in the mouth. Not in a football game. But they were motivated. LSU wasn't. South Carolina, I think both teams were motivated. I think South Carolina was more motivated because
I can understand that one.
In a sense, I think the reason South Carolina was motivated is because they wanted to put their name on the map. They wanted to be like, we're real, we're here. I think South Carolina is also a very good football team. And so I think for the 4th week in a row, LSU is facing a very, very motivated football team. And for the second time, I'll say, LSU wasn't motivated. I think against South Carolina they were. They just weren't as motivated as the Gamecocks. But I think LSU wasn't motivated today, defensively especially. Offensively, I think they were because they came out and they zoomed down the field with a beautiful touchdown drive. But defensively, they were not motivated. They were not they didn't want to go and make a statement on those first couple of drives when they should have. You know, when they should have been like, you know what, this first drive, our offense just went down and scored a touchdown. Let's punch these guys in the mouth. Let's get the ball back. Let's force a punt. Let's get Nussmeier the ball back. Let him go score a touchdown. Also, don't like going forward on fourth down on the second drive of the game. Now, LSU defensively was able to get UCLA to a fourth down on their first drive. UCLA should go for it on fourth down on their first drive against LSU in Tiger Stadium. There's no I get that I'm being picky now about going for it on fourth down or punting it, but why is LSU going for it on fourth down against UCLA? One, why is the offense not able to convert, which they should have? Kyron Lacey drops that ball. This season's Kyron Lacey drops that ball, I'll say 2 out of 10 times. This was one of those 2 times he dropped the ball. He's ready to make a play. Should have got the first down. There also could have been a pass interference call on the fourth down conversion. Against Xavier Thomas, he ran like a little comeback, and there was some grabbing here and there. But LSU shouldn't be in the position to get against UCLA to have to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
And so, that second drive offensively, you saw it wasn't very pretty. You know, you saw some of the things you didn't really want to see. I think my notes, I said they never really seemed in rhythm. You had a big catch from Aaron Anderson on third down. That was the possession. You ran out of the pistol, but you ran into a stack front. You had a bad Kyron drop on third down. Could have been PI on fourth down, but really no need to go for it. So I think defensively, the rest of the season, every game from here on out, you have to decide before the game that you're going to make a statement. You have to come out ready. Every single game from here on out, you have to show up and show out. It's not just, oh, this is South Alabama. Oh, Florida's not that good this year. Oh, Vanderbilt went all the way to the end with Missouri. You looked at the schedule preseason and said Vanderbilt W, put it a W by it.
Double overtime.
Not anymore. And so at some point this defense is going to have to show up at the start of the game and give LSU a chance to win a football game because slow starts aren't going to work. We talked about it last week. You can't keep doing it, and you did it again today. And that's where the disappointment comes from, was because that was the big thing you circled. Like, you looked at the South Carolina game, you circled. There was a bunch of things to look at to fix, but the big thing you circled was you went down 17-0. LSU was down 17-0 in the first half. I mean, you can't do that again.
You were losing after the first quarter.
You were down 10-7 after one.
You were down 10-7 after the first quarter. I thought it was going to be a 2-score game for LSU after the first quarter.
100%.
I'm sitting there in Tiger Stadium, and we're all stunned. We're all shocked. We're like, you're telling me this team lost 44-13 at home against Indiana, but they're going to come in here and lead Tiger Stadium after the first quarter? No, I wouldn't have believed you if you had told me that before the game.
That's not the start LSU needed. You expect after that South Carolina being down 17-0, LSU to have the mindset of we're not going to start slow. Well, after the first quarter, you were losing 10-7.
Yeah,
and now 10-7, that's basically a tie football game. But you're down a possession, you're down a score. You went down and scored, and then you gave up a touchdown. Then you went for it on fourth and didn't get it. And then your defense was able to hold them to 3 is what I'll say. Because the way the defense was playing to start that football game, I will call it hold them to 3. Not, sadly your defense gave up 3. Your defense held them to 3. Stopped them. You needed a sack to get off the field, to force a kick, a field goal on fourth down. That's not what LSU needed. And yes, they're 3-1. It's a win. They beat a Power 4 opponent. That is a positive. They're moving in the right direction because they're 1-0 this week. They're going into South Alabama and the bye week. Now, were there some, there were some bumps and bruises. One thing I didn't like seeing were there were some injuries today. I didn't like that.
No.
I expected some cramps, some things like that. It was hot outside. It hadn't been this hot in a little minute.
Hope Harold is okay.
I hope Harold Perkins is all right. I think, let's see, I'm going to pull up our guy Wilson Alexander's live tweeting from Brian Kelly's presser. He said Harold Perkins will undergo tests over the next 2 days to determine his injury, and LSU should have more information on Monday. So a lot of people are going to be listening in Monday to Brian Kelly's press conference to see what the deal is with Harold Perkins, because as much as Harold has not been the guy you've expected Harold to be, you don't want to play defense without him because he makes plays. He does what he needs. He's in the right spot. Our guy Glenn says, bro, UCLA punted with 5 minutes left. Their fans should be livid. I agree. I don't know why UCLA punts the football. Just go for it and try to score. But, hey, I'm not mad at it as an LSU fan because we got the football back. Yeah. But, yeah, the disappointment comes from the fact that you expected the one thing on LSU's list to be circled was start faster. Like Brian Kelly said, they're going to receive the kickoff to start the game so they can start fast. Well, offensively, you did that on the first drive, but not on the second drive, because what happened was your defense didn't start fast.
And can I talk about electing to receive it real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
LSU. I'll give you 2 illustrations. You defer in the South Carolina game, and you were down 17-0 in that game. You score at the end of the first half, and then while you didn't score at the start of the second half, you were on the 2-yard line. You were on the 2-yard line before they got stuffed, right? On 4th and goal, I believe it was. You had a chance to double up. That chance, coaches talk about how 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes in the first half and the first 5 minutes of the second half are some of the most important parts of the game. UCLA, you elect to receive. UCLA scores at the end of the first half, and they get the ball right back to start the second half. Now, I know that you stopped them, sure. But they could have taken the lead. They had the ball first. Why are you doing that? Like, it worked for you against South Carolina, or it was going to work for you before what happened on the goal line in the first drive of the second half, but it just makes no sense to receive. I may receive in a video game because I like playing offense more, but I'm not going to, if I'm a coach and I win the coin toss, I'm going to defer because you have a chance to double up. And I just don't understand why BK is making these decisions constantly, really. We've elected to receive the ball a lot under BK. Like, it's not just 1 or 2 games here and there. He does it a lot. And I just don't understand it. I don't get it. Yeah, it's something that somebody might have to explain it to me, because, yeah, you do go out and score the touchdown, but you give them the chance to double up. I just don't get it.
No, I agree. I think the position LSU's in now, with their defense being where it is, you have to give yourself that little bit of safety. Like, we're going to get the ball to start the second half, because that's exactly what it is. It's almost a safety precaution, and maybe your defense is a little more inspired to come out and play faster if they are on the field first. I don't know, because that's not what happened against South Carolina. But maybe if you start the game that way against UCLA, it's different. I don't know. That's hypotheticals. I don't really want to deal with that. But I think from here on out, you defer and you get the ball to start the second half. I 100%, because you tried it. You used it. This was a good game to experiment on it with. That's why I'm not mad about doing it today, because you were able to beat UCLA 34-17, and you in my opinion, made the wrong decision and received the kickoff. You tested it out. Mm-hmm. Okay. From here on out, don't do that. Mm-hmm. From here on out, give yourself the safety of, we're going to get the ball to start the second half. So if we are tied, or we're down a score, or 2 scores, it puts LSU in a better position to be successful. But I'm disappointed with the football game I watched today. Just because I tend to be more of a positive guy, when it comes to this team, and I'm a little more glass half full when it comes to what I watch on Saturdays or when I'm on here talking about it. Because the guy that's watching the game at home is completely different than who's talking to you right now.
Dude.
It's completely different. There's things that LSU needs to fix. They need to figure out how to motivate. The coaches need to figure out how to motivate this football team. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you do it, but before the game starts, the coaches need to figure out how to motivate this team because that's still circled. You circled it after South Carolina. It's still you circled it after Nichols. You went into South Carolina. Still, you had the same problem. You went down 17-0, and so you triple, quadruple, quintuple. You circled it. You put a star by. You underlined it. Whatever. You put the sticky note on your mirror. And then you came out against UCLA and you did it again. You started slow again, especially defensively. So that's still circled, which is upsetting to me because that's the one thing that I felt like LSU needed to fix in this football game. I like that LSU can make second-half adjustments. That's good. I like that they're able to look at what happened, adjust, and play complementary football in the second half. You're going to need that in all four quarters with this football team.
Yeah. Because
you don't have Jaden. As much as Garrett Nussmeier is playing outstanding football, has some of the best arm talent I've ever seen in an LSU uniform. When it comes to arm talent, Jamarcus Russell, Nussmeier has the arm talent of some, it's very impressive. And so, but he's still not Jaden Daniels. He's not, he's not, Jaden Daniels is generational, like I said. And so and Evo makes a good point. Today you received and you started 7-0, so you don't have the same situation where you can go down 17-0. I agree. I agree that it put them in a better position because they were able to score first. But at the same time, on the back end of that, it put LSU in a bad spot where you could have started the second half essentially down 7-0 because you give up a touchdown. Now, you didn't. You trusted the way I agree that it's not an absolute, but in my opinion, with this football team, with the defense playing the way they are, where you haven't really seen as much improvement as you would have liked, that's just an extra piece of safety that would be nice because today it would have been nice. They were able to get the win. I think next weekend they're able to get the win regardless of the decision they make on the opening kick. But I think against Ole Miss, because that's essentially what I'm talking about, is against Ole Miss, against Alabama, against Oklahoma, A&M, and heck, Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, the rest of the schedule. Those are the games I'm talking about where, especially Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma, you're going to want that extra little bit of cushion, this safety valve of knowing I'm going to get the ball to start the second half.
And I'd say going into the South Alabama game next week, your number one thing you emphasize on practice is if I'm BK, I'm like, guys, the number one thing we got to do against South Alabama is start well. Yep. That is the number one thing. The first quarter against South Alabama is key. It's crucial, and it is South Alabama, but you got to be able to put a good first half together. Yep. And you did against USC, so I know this team can do it, but it is so concerning because, guys, if this continues to be a thing, you could be down 3 scores against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss's offense, this defense is not going to be able to hold Ole Miss's offense down like it was against South Carolina. Ole Miss's offense is high-powered. It's great. Same with Alabama. You cannot start like you did against South Carolina. You cannot start like you did against Nichols or against UCLA. You're not going to win if you start like that against Ole Miss and Bama. You're not.
No, the things need to be that's the biggest thing that needs to be fixed is finding out how to motivate this football team to start games faster. The second thing on that list to me is you got to figure out what to fix in the defensive backfield. Because Lane Kiffin probably watched this football game with a smile on his face when he looked at that defensive backfield. We're saying you can bring as much pressure as you want because that LSU brought pressure to start the first half. They sent a blitz what felt like every play on that first drive, And Eric Bieniemy was able to say, okay, if we're gonna dump it off here. We're gonna throw it we're gonna do, because we believe that the guys in your defensive backfield won't make the play. And today, in that first half especially, they didn't. And so at some point, they're gonna have to make the play. And so those are the top two things on the list going into next week and the rest of the season. Really, find a way to start fast and motivate this team ahead of the game before the second half. Behind that, figure out how to have this defensive backfield ready to make the play. You can be in the right spot all you want. You got to make the play. And that's the one good thing, the one positive where I see the growth from last season is majority of the time they're in the right spot. There's not all these coverage busts in the defensive backfield on, these pass plays. You've given up some run. There's been some defensive busts against South Carolina and nickels on run plays.
They're put in the right spots.
But they're in the execution. Then you have to make the play because Braden Swinson can't get a fumble every play. He can't force a fumble every time. There was let me see what drive it was. It was on the, let's see. I don't remember which drive it was, but Jair Brown was able to make a tackle on a screenplay where they were set up on it was pretty far down in distance kind of, but you sent pressure and you needed a play to be made. Jair Brown made the tackle. If he doesn't make the tackle, who knows what's happened because he had blockers in front of him. He tackled him from behind. And so you got to continue to make the plays in the defensive backfield because when Braden Swinson gets held and they don't call it, or they rush past the quarterback, or they're not able to make the sack, or they miss that's when the defensive backfield has to make the play. And so at some point, they're going to have to. Today, they were able to win the football game without really making the play. I think one of the more encouraging things was that Jordan Gilbert interception was the ball was put into harm's way. Jordan made the play. He was able to make it happen. Because very, very likely could have bobbled it, let it hit the ground, whatever. UCLA gets another opportunity. They would have ended up punting it because it was fourth down, but it was nice to see them make the play. And so those are the two things I think on my list, Justin. Is there anything else that you think needs to be added behind motivating them, starting faster, and then having the defensive backfield make the play when the front seven needs them to?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's not. I'd say, and I don't want to highlight him because it's not just his problem, but it's just watching Major Burns sometimes he can make the play. He's not terrible, but it's always a struggle for him some games.
No, I mean, I think if you look at that first touchdown UCLA scored today, you can pretty obviously say that that's Major's play to make, and he made the mistake. I think the Nichols run, the Guggenheim touchdown run to start the second half, he failed to fill that out. I've met Major. I know Major. Me and Major are the same age. I've had classes with him. I like Major Burns. He is a good football player. He's not a bad football player. No, I agree. I'm with you. But it's also our job to state what we see. There have been many times that he has made the mistake, which really with Major, one of the biggest reasons he's on the field is because he's experienced. He's going to be in the right spot. He's going to get everybody else in the right spot. But then you can't. When you're that guy, you can't mess up.
I expect that from a freshman.
Right,
I expect that
when
from
PJ
a
Woodland messes
senior.
up, or Deshaun Spears, or Kylan Jackson, or these younger guys, it's different. But Major's been here, you got to make the play. I don't want them to take Major off the field because there's plays that Major made that the next guy maybe doesn't make. But I want Major on because he does keep everybody in the right spot. He is helping keep the team organized without the green dot in his helmet. But you can't make the mistake against Ole Miss. You can't make the mistake against Alabama. You really can't make the mistake against anybody else the rest of the season. You've got South Alabama, and that's your last non-conference game. From then on out, it's straight SEC opponents. You have Ole Miss, top 5 team in the country. Arkansas, You've played them close every season, the last however many years it's been.
And
even with
Arkansas
Jaden
looks
Daniels
better.
and then with Jaden Daniels last year, you won on a last-second field goal. The year before that, you won. I think 13-10 was the score. Harold Perkins had to play the game of his life for you to win the football game. And then after that, you have Texas A&M, who is Texas A&M, and the front seven for A&M is going to be great. They're going to be good defensively. Offensively, we'll see what they look like tonight until then, but that's Texas A&M. They still have some guys from that highest-rated recruiting class ever, however many years ago that was when they wanted to throw the money around. Then you've got Alabama. Who's Alabama? I don't care if Saban's gone. Yes, that makes a difference, but it's Alabama. It's still Jalen Milroe, who killed you last year without even throwing the football. Like, he did it all with his leg. And so I expect Blake Baker to fix the low-hanging fruit and put a spy on the field. And it's very possible that spy ends up being Major Burns, because I saw Major Burns spy the quarterback on the last touchdown of the first half for UCLA. And then after Alabama, you have Florida. Florida's not that good, but they beat up on Mississippi State today, so they're not that bad. They're still them. And then you've got Vanderbilt, who
Challenge Missouri.
that's a real football. It's not Vanderbilt. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at Vanderbilt preseason, you say, "Oh, finally, we've got Vanderbilt on the schedule." That's a break during SEC play. Nope, not this year. Not this season.
You thought that about UCLA,
Right. Not this season with who Vanderbilt is and with who LSU is. It's not going to work out like that. And then after them, you've got Oklahoma at home. We'll see who Oklahoma is tonight against Tennessee, but I can promise you they're not going to be some slight. Like, they're not going to be this team that you can just brush off. Because UCLA wasn't that. Nichols wasn't that. Like, so the rest of the season, you got to get this stuff figured out if you want a chance to compete. Kenneth, I agree. The messed up part is for 2 years the DC was garbage, and now we have people in the program, and you're trying to reprogram them as the game is going. I agree.
That's the
that's the hill that Blake Baker's having to go uphill.
Yeah.
Fight that battle.
That's the only critique of BK you can have. He
whiffed.
Completely whiffed
on those
the
hires.
hires.
I agree. And so Blake Baker's on an uphill battle trying to get them right. And he's done a good job because they are improved. I promise.
They are.
When you take off the angry LSU fan glasses, you will see an improved defense, because that's what they are. Because when I take them off, because I'm wearing them, I promise, just because I come on here and talk positively and try to look at glass half full, when I'm at home on the couch or I'm in Tiger Stadium, the negative glasses are on. I'm mad. Because what are we doing?
I feel the same way. It's almost like I'm a different person, like, watching the game.
Right.
It's like watching the game, I even realize it after the game. I am not, I'm not a glass half full person when I'm watching the game. When I come on here and when I do the post game, I try to say, well, this is what they did well. This is what they did well. If you're talking to me during the game, or if I'm texting a buddy during the game, I'm like, bro.
No, I think if you go back and watch the watch party, or if you watch the watch parties for the rest of the season, we'll have one for you on October 19th when they face Arkansas. I'll check out quick. The intercept, the pick six Nussmeier threw that got called back for the blind side, I was out the door. Lloyd and Justin them had to yell at me to let me know. So, like, I'm there with you. I look at it like that as well when I'm watching it. But then when I sit back and I look at it from a whole, I see it a little different. Fatboy Slim says 90% of this LSU defense can't tackle in open space. I don't completely disagree with you. I'm not going to get to the game of numbers and percentages. But I agree. At some point, you're going to have to, you got to make if you're the first one there, you got to make the tackle at some point, or the second. Because there's times it takes the fourth or fifth guy to get there to make the tackle, and that's an issue. And that goes for everybody on the defense, including Harold Perkins. Because I saw multiple times today, he didn't make the tackle.
There was a screen play, I believe in the second quarter, it was 1st and 10, and they were in a screenplay, and it was just Harold Perkins one-on-one against the receiver, and he missed the tackle. Yep. And I'm like, dude, please, you got to make the tackle.
And so that's another thing that can get added onto that list. And I think another part of the list isn't something you need to fix, but something that I want to see continue to be worked on and to grow from is the run game. If they can continue on the trajectory they're on run game-wise and grow off of this game and continue to get Caleb Jackson in space, to get because Josh Williams ran with some burst that we hadn't seen, especially on that first touchdown drive of the second half. That was burst I hadn't seen from 18 yet this season. And I'm all in. If they're able to get Caleb Jackson momentum, like that's his biggest. He is a wrecking ball, but you gotta get the ball. You gotta get it swinging. You can't just expect from a stationary position for him to be able to just shrug people off. You gotta get him rolling, and then you have Caden Durham on top of that, who can make the guy miss in the open field, who is a big time threat in the pass game. Obviously, you saw that today. Like, you continue to get the run game going. That helps out the defense that you're trying to fix. That puts you in a position where if you're able to do what you did in the second half today, if you're LSU, if you're able to force a punt, put together a 5, 6, 7 minute drive and score a touchdown, and then turn around, force a punt, and do the same thing again, you can do that for all 4 quarters. You're in a very good position if you're LSU. Now, the opponent's going to get a lot tougher when it's Ole Miss on October 12th. But if you're able to stack days and keep that going, and I think the word that Brian Kelly used heading into halftime when he did the TV interview was consistency. They lack consistency, and I agree. I think that's the biggest knock on this team is they're very inconsistent. Because the team that you saw in the second half, they could have done that in the first half. But they weren't motivated. They weren't consistent in making the plays. They had an issue here, offensively or defensively or special teams or whatever, and it turned into you're down 10-7 at the end of one. Or you're tied with UCLA 17-17 at the half. Yeah. I mean, on FanDuel, one of the most popular bets on the app was for LSU to be up by a touchdown at the end of every quarter. Like, the spread was -6.5 LSU first quarter. And it would, I think they had some thousands of people that had bet on it. They all lost their money because LSU didn't do that. And like Fat Boy Slim says, Ole Miss is on cream puff number 4. That's true. They haven't played comp yet, but I'm pretty sure they've got somebody before LSU. They play. I think they have South Carolina.
I think they have at South Carolina next week.
They have at South Carolina before LSU.
It's either next week or the week after.
Yes, they have Kentucky next week at home. South Carolina on the 5th.
Kentucky challenged Georgia, so maybe they could.
And they've got no bye week before LSU. That plays a factor.
Yeah, the bye week advantage is a big deal. It's a big deal.
Kenneth says, looks like last week with Durham dominating and motivated everyone else in the run game. I think, we can't speak for what happened in the locker room, but I don't think that that's completely wrong. I think what it did more was it gave the coaching staff an idea of here's what we can do to be successful, because they finally found an inkling of success. They found something that worked. And so they were able to say, we can add that, and then, with Caleb Jackson, maybe we can dump it off to him a few times, in the flat or right over the middle so that he can get moving, where you can get that wrecking ball swinging. Yeah. So that those first 2 guys, he just kind of brushes them off. He's stiff. I mean, on one of them, he put the guy's helmet through the ground. Yeah. And then, and then with Josh Williams, he gets a little burst. The offensive line is able to get some momentum because they saw last week as a success. They should look at this week as a success. Did Will Campbell have a false start again today?
Yeah.
Yes, and it made me very angry because
he's got to stop.
Number 66, number 7, whatever you want to call him, no more false starts. You got to stop. You have to fix it. I don't know if it's the yips. I don't know what's going on.
It shouldn't be him.
You got to fix it. John Bodenheimer says the slow starts have been brutal. I agree. That's the biggest knock after this game is that you circled slow start after last week and you did it again.
So, I did want to mention something about the running game. This is going to be my only Saints reference of the show, okay? It's going to be my only Saints reference of the show because I know this is the LSU pod and that's cool, but I have to mention this as an illustration. Alvin Kamara had a bad year for the Saints last year because Pete Carmichael would just run him up the middle on every single play. This year with Clint Kubiak, as a Saints fan, I'm seeing Alvin Kamara on the outside. I'm seeing Alvin Kamara in the screen game. He doesn't have to run between the tackles every run he gets. They're getting him to the outside and letting him work in open space. That's the same thing you got to do for LSU. The same exact thing. Don't make him run through the tackles every time. Get him to the outside. Get him a screen. Get him, whatever. Let these guys work in open space. That's what I think is the big thing for me in the running game.
No, I agree. I'm right there with you. I think that if LSU's able to do that and grow off and, find things that work. Samuel Myers, our guy Sam, says, this LSU team is not going to score 45 a game like the past years. We have to understand that. But they have the offense to win big-time games. I agree. This offense is good enough, man. It is. Like, I promise you it is. They're able to make the plays when they need them. But you can't put as much pressure on them as you were able to put on Jaden Daniels last year. That's not that's not going to happen. You can't do that. But what you can do is you can find ways to put them in to the right position to where you're able to get stops and they can milk the clock. Glenn says 1/3 in the season, LSU still controls their own destiny. 100%. It's still very much in the car. I mean, they're 3-1. They're a couple plays away from being 4-0. So like it's not, the ship has not sailed.
Yeah.
And for the people that think it has,
I'm
telling you to take a deep breath. And it'll be okay.
You did want a little bit of added confidence.
No, I'm still disappointed. I'm disappointed for what I saw today. I thought that there was potential for LSU to come out of this game against UCLA where we were all feeling much more comfortable. And that didn't happen. And so I'm still disappointed with what I saw today because, like I said, you had something circled, you didn't fix it. Now you've got a couple things circled. You've got to start faster. You have to get the defensive backfield to step up. You have to continue to grow the run game. You have to clean up these missed tackles, different things like that. And so LSU's not in as bad of a spot as they could be because you could have lost last week and you're 2-2 and this is, you end up being 2-2 after today. Your season's over. It's not over. The season's not over. And so we'll see what happens. South Alabama is a good team. They can score points. You've seen it through the last 2 weeks that they've played. They score points.
Better team. They're a better team than UCLA.
I think potentially. The level of competition is a lot closer than we thought. I think when you look at the schedule, you see Power 4 team.
It's not
group of
Nichols.
5 team, so LSU's got to show up in Tiger Stadium. I don't know what the time of that game is, but
6:45.
It's a night game in Tiger Stadium. I don't think it's going to be packed out, but you got to see a better show. The fans have to show up more next week than they did today. Fat Boy Slim says, I have 3 major issues with this team. Nuss needs to start running, even if it is just for a few yards. You got to clean up open field tackles and stop not getting your head around as a DB. I agree. Those are all all pieces of things that have to get fixed.
We didn't
100%.
talk about Nuss running the ball
because
I could see what he's saying.
Yeah, I think throughout the season that's one thing that would elevate the run game a little bit more if there was a threat of Nussmeier pulling the football, because there's not, and there still isn't today. There was one play, I don't remember exactly when it was, but Nuss was rolling out, and he had the opportunity to tuck and run, and he could have just maybe cut in and maybe had a guy miss or whatever, or pump fake the ball, run inside. But instead, he just dumped it off to Mason Taylor instead, which I'm not mad at because it worked, and that's his. That's what he wants to do. But at some point on these zone reads, for them to work, Nussmeier has to show that he's a threat to pull it. And if that's not going to happen, you have to somehow work that into your game plan. Whether it's because we got to stop settling for 3 when we get on 3rd and goal.
Yeah.
Like, I think on the drive that they settled for 3, he forced a ball in there to Kyron Lacey, and it was a heck of a throw. Not many people are able to get the ball in there, but
LSU on the goal line.
It was catchable, but they got to figure that out.
They got to figure it out too.
And if Nussmeier's not going to pull it, I'm not opposed to Jawan Johnson being the Wildcat back, or whether it's Josh Williams or Caleb or Ricky Collins, like
Hayden Durham.
Yeah, like I'm not opposed to experimenting with that. Now, I'm not the coach. I'm not going to say what to do and what's the right decision, but at some point that's got to be a threat, especially when you get close like that. You can't settle for 3 against Ole Miss.
No.
You can't settle for. You did it against USC, and look what happened. You lost because you couldn't score a touchdown on a few of those drives. You got to figure something out, And so we'll see what happens. I will not be here next week to do the post-game show after South Alabama. That'll be up on Justin Lloyd and all them. They'll see what they can pull off. But LSU they're 3-1. They're still, they're 1-0 in the week. They're still on the trajectory that we talked about after USC. They've gone 3-0 since that game, with one more game ahead of the big-time matchup with Ole Miss in Tiger Stadium. So we'll see what happens next week. Another thing I want to add, last night, me and my guy Sam were out at Catholic U High watching Jacob Bradford, Blaine Bradford. Those are 2 highly touted recruits here in Louisiana. Zay Martin, Southeastern commit, and then the LSU's very own commit, linebacker Keelan Moses for U High. U High and Catholic faced off of Memorial Stadium. It was a classic football game. It was fun. The fans were up into it. We have the entire breakdown on the Jordy Culotta Show channel, so make sure you check it out. You get a good look at Keelan Moses. The rest of that U-High team, Zay Martin is the real deal. He's committed to Southeastern. You get a look at the Bradford brothers. So go ahead and check that out. That's obviously brought to you by our guy at All About Inflatables, Gabe Patterson, and All About Inflatables. You can go to the website, allaboutinflatablesds.com. And you can rent out whatever you see fit. Whether, I know he just got a new little inflatable, like Pop-A-Shot basketball thing in. He's got different things like that. Or you can call the number 225-667-2386, All About Inflatables. They brought the high school football coverage last night. Make sure you go check that out. Next week we'll be back in Memorial Stadium for Catholic West Monroe, another big-time game. But last night was really fun. And it got us rolling into some football today. There's been a lot of good football on. LSU still has, disappointed me a little bit, but they're moving in the right direction because they're 3-1. They're 3-0 since that opening, that season opener loss. It'll be very interesting to hear what Brian Kelly has to say on his Monday presser, because if I'm going to be completely honest, his press conferences have been great. Like the Monday press conference after Nichols and after South Carolina, I thought he's handled it very well. He's responded to what he's have to respond to, and so I'm intrigued to see how he responds this Monday to the football game we watched. I want to know how the coaches viewed the game that we just watched, and so it'll be interesting to see what he has to say and how they can improve. But me and Justin's list from today, you got to figure out how to start faster. You can't go down in games anymore. Circle it, figure it out. Defensive backfield has to step up and make plays. The tackling issues have to be fixed, and you got to continue to grow this run game offensively with the line and with the backs, whether it's mixing in the pass plays or whatever. You got to grow that. If the LSU is able to get those kind of figured out over these next 2 weeks ahead of Ole Miss, you got yourself a ball game on October 12th. And I know we're really excited for that.
Yeah,
I think I'm excited. That's the next post-game show that I will be a part of. And I'm excited to see what the feelings are then compared to what they are right now. So I appreciate all of y'all tuning in. Justin, if you want to say bye to everybody, go ahead and salute.
All right, y'all.
So we
Tigers
appreciate
get a win.
We appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back with y'all Monday morning, the Jordy Culotta Show on NewOrleans.football. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'm still running it. I'm still active on here. I'm getting YouTube videos out, pretty much daily, clips from the show. And then we're doing stuff like this, like the high school football coverage last night, post-game shows, watch parties. We're going to continue to add to that. Check out JordyCulottaShow.com. Read the blogs. Justin, Christian, Ron, they've done a great job doing those. Hunter just tuned in. Where's Christian? Where's Lloyd? Where's my snapback? I did the hair today. Snapbacks really only pop up in the morning, 7 to 9, because I don't feel like hopping in the shower to get my hair ready, so I just put the hat on. And it's not a snapback. It's a fitted. It is a fitted hat, size 7.5. Hunter, Christian, I hope he's alive. I'm assuming he's in Tigerland, Hunter, because he was supposed to be here. Kind of ghosted me. Lloyd's got some family business he's handling, so I had to get behind the keys and run it. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. Wish we would have heard from you sooner, Hunter. I'm excied to see what day is the LSU Alabama. I think November 8th, November 8th. We'll talk in that post-game show, Hunter. But we appreciate y'all tuning in. Subscribe to the Jordy Culotta channel. Ring the bell. Subscribe to NewOrleans.football. We'll see y'all 7 to 9 a.m. Thank you, and see you next time.
Trying to send help when I come around, dog, it ain't working. Trying to just play and trying to stop me, dog, it ain't working. I handle business while your lanes chirping. Who on my level, man, I'm still searching. I'm in their heads like a neurosurgeon. I'm everywhere like I'm Harold Perkins. Let's be stepping, we can never put on the same shoes. I've been giving L's like I know love and I can't lose. For myself, man, I can't.